Is out there. I'm starting the live stream a few minutes early. I'm actually using a different streaming service, and I will be using StreamYard on Saturday. That is my goal. But I had to wait 24 hours. So I am going to just probably talk to myself for a few minutes. This picture isn't as large as I'm used to, so sorry if half my head ends up going out. Um, I don't like that there's a lag between how I talk and looking at myself. I'll be on a different word and my lips will be moving differently, so I can't look at me. But let's see, can you hear me? I downloaded some different software. Awesome. For my mic, I have no idea if it's the laptop mic or if my Yeti mic is actually picking things up. So who knows? How you doing, Misha? Looky there, looky there. That's all I know how to do. I'm totally worthless. The rest of it, that's all I got. I haven't learned how to use anything else on this yet. Because I wasn't feeling as great today, I thought that I might just use a different streaming service, use Restream like they do in Even a Meeting, have you guys be able to get on me. But I have no idea how to share the link. Do I just share the URL that I have up? I have no idea. See, that's the URL that pops up. But I don't know if that's actually what I'm supposed to be sharing with you guys, or if I'm supposed to share something else that will allow you guys to get here. Oh, I don't like the full screen because then I can't see your chats. That sucks. Why can't I have full screen and see your chats? That's what I want. But it doesn't look like I'm going to get that. Oh, here, invite guests. Look at this. This might be what I need. Maybe. That's what it says for one I just put up. That is the one that says for sharing. I have no idea if you're backstage how to do anything. No idea how to add you. Picture in picture? No. Well, this is an event. Okay, so thank you, Misha, for letting me know that you can hear. And I would let you in if I had any clue as to how to do that. Learning live with Yahoo! People invite guests, so I can do that. That's the same thing as I did there. It's just on the side and not in front. The That doesn't make any difference. So that's the same. So it gets my chat back up. Hi, Sandy. We are seeing if I can get anybody else on the screen. I can share the URL, it looks like, but I have no idea how to actually get you on the screen. So I think Misha said that she could wait in the backstage, but I don't know how to let you in from the backstage. There's nothing there's a little eyeball with a 1 by it. But if I click on it, nothing happens. So I think that's just me. So I have no idea what else to do to get anybody else on here. Nope, I'm not going to need help. We're not doing that tonight. So if you guys can't make it on, we'll just be talking, and at least I can put your chats up. That's something. I'll be using a different streaming service this weekend, so we'll wait a few more minutes till we can get some people, because there actually is a few things that I want to talk about having to do with trauma and the effects of trauma. Just to let you guys know. Oh, here, people too. There's hidden undo. Okay. Can you hear, Misha?
I can hear. Can you hear me?
I can.
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, you're like
right,
this big on the screen, but
that's okay. I'm good with that.
I don't know how to make anybody bigger. We'll just have you guys all be going around my head.
Yeah, we'll be your entourage.
There you go. Yeah, you just popped up with the 2. So, okay. So that's how I do it. It just wasn't awesome. Okay, we gotta get our chat back. Gypsy Daisy, welcome. I don't think I've seen you on a live stream here yet. Congrats. Generally, we have a few more people. That's why I've just kind of been chatting. We've been learning how to get somebody on screen. So Awakened is on screen with me. She's
hello,
but that's all I know how to do.
Tiny.
And if you want to join, I've put on the screen, you see the URL. If you look back in the chat just a little bit, you'll find the URL as well.
And it's the second one. Is the one that I used.
Yeah.
And it gave me no problems at all.
Okay. Yeah. The one that ends in event equals, like on the screen. So it'll be the first one you come back to as you're going back through. You know, this picture behind me used to be straight until the cat started screwing with it, because, you know, I can't have nice things without them deciding that they're going to be messing with it. And I'm going to have to turn.
I was looking at it. It's pretty, though.
This off. Thank you. You know, I got that. I was debating if Curacao or
everything's not perfect.
What? What
it
does
means
it do?
That you're human.
Of course.
I've had to.
I'm very, very, very human. Yep. No, very, very, very human.
I can't be perfect. All these years I've tried so hard and I just can't do it.
You know what? If you ever ask somebody and they say they're an AI. I mean,
for real,
it's kind of frightening, because I've been speaking about some people that within 10 years, probably, you may pass people on the street and not realize that they are an AI. They'll have the
Girl,
body.
don't get me started.
I know they've already got the exoskeletons, completely done, and they, are
Oh
making
yeah,
them.
and they've done the
It's just
first
a matter
airline
of
is actually
making them on a, mass production basis. They can make the exoskeletons on a mass production basis now, which is absolutely frightening. Absolutely 100% frightening.
it. They have
Because
the
you
Neuralink
think
is actually the device is in humans now. They've got it in
Yeah.
humans, and you know what that is? The Elon Musk.
Yep, Elon Musk.
It's actual. They are doing the actual testing.
I
I am the
saw a
president of the
billboard
Tinfoil
and
Hat Club around here.
we'll talk sometime because I don't want to get involved in politics on here, but I have a whole world order
That's why
thing
I'm like, don't get me
well, some friends of mine and I got to get together and we were talking about, some of, just we were talking about politics and this and that and the other thing. And, we kind of moved with it and we're like, oh, holy shit. It's like all of a sudden pieces made sense to us. And we were like, wow, that's like pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, everything was
and
making.
then I was talking to somebody like a few days later, and I said to them, well, because thinking more macro than micro, not just US, think about global. And they went, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So yeah, maybe we'll have a political discussion sometime, but I'll have that up there going, this is a political discussion. And that will be the only time it will ever be is there.
Yeah.
Hey, Davey, how's it going?
Yeah.
I actually figured out how
on mine
to
just because mine's already got
with
so much of that on there.
Woohoo!
I didn't hear you, babe.
I'm very pleased with that. I was just saying hello to Davey, and that I was pleased that we were able to get somebody, that I was able to figure out how to get you up here. So if somebody else wants to join, let me know. I can share the URL again.
Davey.
Originally, I wasn't feeling that great today, and I'm still not. But I
get on up here, girl.
Yep, I wanted to be able to come on and talk to you guys, and I don't know where everybody is tonight, but they may just be busy. I know that there may be a bunch of people over on Karen's channel, in Scientology. They just had a thing that DOA has been released and all the conspiracy charges have been dropped. So that is wonderful. Perfect. And of course, that's, par for the course. Shake the people up and then drop everything, right? So we'll see what becomes of that. Yeah. Are there multiple people in the room, or do you have a way to integrate additional speakers?
I have not.
You can integrate somebody, Sandy. Yes. Do you mind, Awaken? Do you mind if I use your actual name or? Huh?
No, that's fine. Everybody pretty much.
Say again.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, thought so, but I wasn't sure. So Misha's on the screen with me. So yes, I can add you. She just chooses not to have her picture on, so she puts different pictures up. But so you can be up with just a blank screen, or you can be up with your picture. So if you want to join me, just let me know. I think I can have up to 4 more people up. They're not as big as they are as on Need a Meeting, so we're just going to have these little boxes probably around my head. But
I love it. We'll be little ornaments.
Yeah, but on the screen right now is
I don't know. I haven't been on this software.
I figured out how to do this. Well,
I've been on this side of the software, but I haven't been on.
I will be using a different one this weekend, but it seems that's even going to be easier. So we should be able to do the same thing that we're doing right now, and have multiple people up. I think that will.
It's a party.
Yeah, it'll do us good in the long run, because there are certain topics, of course, especially when we get into the deep dives of the effects of trauma. Um, like I said, I don't know where everybody is tonight, so we'll just go through a few. There were a few things I wanted to mention, and we'll go through this more when I do the actual effects on trauma video, which actually may get broken down into either a couple of parts or it's going to be a shorter, because a lot of the things that are the effects of are really things that we're going to want to do deep dives in, that most of us either have or do experience. And they're things that I found that when we're dealing with how to heal from them, that some of these things have kind of their own ways. There's different different avenues that you can take to effectuate different types of healing, different effects from the healing. Some of the anxiety, or the depression, they're each going to take something a little bit different. And so I think I've been working on kind of how I want to do that through my brain. I had this original idea, and then I'm not sure that it's gonna work quite like that, but it's just kind of an overview, okay, for effects of trauma. One of the things that it struck me, and it's not like I didn't know this, but for some reason, talking about it within the construct of dealing with trauma, and particularly with our sexual assault trauma, is that traumatized people have difficulty feeling happiness and joy. That trauma deadens our feelings. And so that's why a lot of us end up depressed, because we're trying to feel something that we simply can't. Our brains have shut that part down to a certain extent. And so until you start peeling back that trauma, right, or opening that up and allowing yourself to heal a little bit from that, it's really hard to get to those points where you feel like, this is what I'm supposed to be feeling. This is happiness and this is joy. I know that for me, there's certainly been times where I've been going through life and I've said, I should be a lot happier at this event, or because this or that happened. And you know what? I'm just not. And I feel bad for that. And it dawned on me that, there's been a lot of things like that where I haven't felt the level of joy, the level of happiness. Now I could feel satisfaction. For me, that was different than happiness and joy. I could feel contentment. I could feel satisfaction with a job well done. But happiness and joy, pleasure, it's kind of in a different league, at least for me. And part of it has to do with our bodies being stuck in the fight, flight, or freeze mode. So where our anxiety and our panic comes from, that our bodies aren't getting out of that mode. We're constantly stuck in this loop of wondering, when's the next thing going to happen? We don't have room for those other feelings because you're so on edge, right? I mean, think about it. You lived in a war.
Exactly.
It's really hard
and
for those
I
people.
think
It's really hard to feel those types of feelings. I mean, some of those amazing stories that I've ever heard are the people who were able to find some minuscule measure of happiness in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. And I thought, what an incredible testament to those people's spirit, to their inner strength, because just dealing with the types of traumas that we have, nothing compares. And for them to be able to find joy and happiness, I have to go, oh my gosh, you are just
Well, I think
incredible human beings. Because if I think about it with too deeper than that, then I just am depressed because I can't be that, right? So, we just have to go,
right.
oh, you're wonderful. And that just, did not happen to the majority of people. Let's say 99.9% of people who were experiencing that were not able to get to that type of level of feeling. Miss D, hi. I don't think you've caught a live before. If you have, I have not seen your name. So welcome, welcome, welcome. One thing that I made clear on our other channel, and I don't think I posted this. Maybe I did. I'll need to look back. But this channel is about community, connection, and support. Okay, for sexual assault survivors and our friends. And I want to include that because it's not limited to survivors. I know that there's some people have asked me about, I come on, but I don't have that, that background. I haven't been assaulted. That's okay. Have you suffered trauma in your life? Nearly all of us have. And really, psychology is getting to the point where they have recognized that nearly all of us are going to suffer some form of trauma. Now, it just, as we spoke in the last video, the level of trauma and how quickly it takes us to bounce back. Now, that depends on a lot of different factors, but we've all experienced something.
Now
And
it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you don't recognize it as such, one of the things that I'm going to be getting into, and how many videos down the road, I don't know, because literally I do have a list this long of things that I want to talk about. But is education, and is educating people who have never been assaulted, because it is so critical that they are able to be able to look at be able to recognize the patterns and stop sexual assaults before they happen. And we're talking about like grooming patterns, and this happens in adults and kids. And I can't stress that enough. And it's male and female, it's young and old, it's everybody. So when we teach our education, we have to teach ourselves to be looking at all of those people who are around us, right?
Themselves. Yeah.
The survivors themselves, what?
In my life, there's been some stuff throughout my life, and part of it do with their guilt for when they were assaulted and they didn't understand, they didn't know who to reach out to, yet they were familiar with it, and so they experimented. And so there's a major guilt there as well. So it happens on every single level, the language here, it's hard to keep everything to where that you can say it without, too much triggering and such. But it's something it's really hard to watch, because then for the rest of their lives, they're going through the guilt of something that they had nothing to be guilty for. None of us do on those lines of thought, but it's just, there's something that needs to be looked out for and needs to be watched and not just ignored because, well, you don't want to insult somebody. You don't have to insult somebody about doing it. You just do your own due diligence. You do your own watch, and you educate those around you. And it's so important. We all just like to put our heads in the sand.
And even if we don't catch it beforehand, knowing how to react to somebody who is coming to you or who you are looking at and saying, something's happened here. Something's not right. If you have a good friend, you're going to know that something's going on with them, right? And it can be a very sensitive thing to suggest. And they may not want to admit it, even if they have been, right? But you've put the olive branch out there. And
right.
Believing, if anybody comes to you, believing them is just so important. Let's see, we've got people. I'm on, but I only
not having the reaction.
That's because you're back here. Oh, Davy.
I'm on here.
Yeah, you're on.
Davy!
I was just, I don't know, lurking, I guess.
You were in the
Yay!
back, and I
Body
have
up.
to
Yeah.
click
body
you
up,
and
yeah.
just I've got to
I
click
just
you.
didn't want to bother anybody.
Nah, we're kind of chit chatting away, and
Me.
feel free to be on. You can drop off if you want. You can just be in the chat. It does not matter. You're on, but you only have access to the chat. So that link isn't working for you, Sandy?
It is working for me. That's why I got on here.
Yeah, for you, Dana, but Sandy's trying to.
Maybe she has a different kind of phone. I have an iPhone.
Oh, I don't know if you're trying from your phone
There's two
versus a
different links
computer.
too, though, remember. And so the first one, the one that's higher up, is not probably a good link. But the one that's down from that, the first one you come up if you're scrolling upwards, is the one that I use.
Right.
Is
The one I just
that the
put
one
in
you
that
use,
ends in
maybe?
event equals, that is the
Okay.
one to use. So if you were using any other one, use this one. It's just above Davies' comment at 19:21:19. It's not letting you use. Okay, but you can still be in our
Something I have
chat,
to do
right,
too on
Sandy?
mine. I'm on the computer though.
And see if I'll keep my eye on and see if that 3 goes to a 4 and see if I'm able to add you at all. I think this invite guests here, I think it just goes to the same thing. I don't think it's a different one, but I'll copy and paste this. Pretty sure it's the same one. Yeah, so I'm not sure. But hi, Izzy.
Izzy.
I didn't get a chance to say hi to you. Hello, everyone. So we were just chatting in general about some trauma issues. I was discussing how I might be organizing some of these videos in the future. Education is still a huge one that's going to take at least a couple of different videos. I'm probably doing an adult and a child video, splitting that into 2. But to talk about a few of the, just kind of our general, and I'll be going over this when I actually, on Saturday, when I go through a fuller effects of trauma video. That'll be more targeted for that. But one of the things that I found fascinating about trauma was how our brains, different pieces of our brain, will switch on and off in order to deal with that trauma. And one of the areas that kind of switches off is our hippocampus, it's just our memory. So if people are asking assault victims, right afterwards, if they have trouble remembering, it's for a good reason. It's not just because I'm blocking part of it out or, I'm just overwhelmed. It's literally because your brain turned that piece off. You have enough to deal with your fight, flight, and freeze, that memory aspect, that's just something you don't have the luxury of. So it's like, whoop, okay, we're going to turn that off. We don't need that right now.
Yeah.
So I found that
Ever come back?
I found that just incredibly, I found that so interesting.
It makes sense. I can't remember most of my assault. I can remember parts, but not most of it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I have very little memory.
I was drinking though, so at that age I was 19. So I thought, oh, I just can't remember because I was drunk. Maybe I passed out.
And could be part of it, but this
But how do
also
I
could be
remember
part of
those
it.
things?
Yeah.
There's flashes, total flashes. You know what's happening, but you don't know the extent of it or how long it happened.
Yeah.
I just woke up in a car.
Yeah, and depending on how things happened, how quickly they happened, or how drawn out it was,
Right.
that's your brain's way of protecting yourself, you know.
When
And
I
if that
Yeah.
kind of trauma is too big for too long, that's when that dissociation happens, you know, and people just
Which is what
whoop,
I'm dealing with.
split, either
Yeah.
totally split or they split for that time period and their
Right.
brain is like 100% shut off and you
Yeah.
don't remember anything. And that's where we get the, you know, whole repressed memories from.
Right.
So
Oh
that's
yeah,
something.
nightmares.
Oh, sister.
I had no idea that I parented with disassociation and didn't realize it. I'm only
Wow.
recognizing that I had this. I am probably 8 months now. I got the diagnosis the same day that I got the last paperwork from my counselor and had not heard back from her since. And so I've not got to discuss it with anybody or anything. It's just I saw it on the sheet.
Right.
And I said, well, that makes sense. I've done my due diligence. I've done my own research on it to see what's going on. And I had no idea. Talking with my girls, I realized that I disassociated so much of our lives.
You know,
And it's horrible.
it does, but it does make perfect sense because your brain is protecting yourself. And if there's another piece of you, if you've dissociated to that degree that there's a piece of you that says, I can handle this better, then that's the piece that's going to be handling it, right?
Yeah, I just wish she would be either better at computers or leave it alone or something. Because she likes to play this game of hide and seek with me. And it just drives me nuts. And I think she sits back and laughs or something because, I mean, she will go through and I will go to my computer. I'm like, what is going on? Everything is messed up. So it's either my inner child and she's not been trained yet on computers, or she just is evil, the opposite of me or something, because she likes to, give me a hard time.
Yeah, let's just go
And I
mischievous.
joke
How
around.
about that? Yeah, Izzy says it's also hard when there's a good deal of gaslighting that came after. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
Well, my family was full of that. They would just tell you, get over it.
Mm.
What's your problem? Therapy doesn't work. Don't psychobabble. So, like, any kind of coping mechanisms were kind of thrown to the side. They were like, nah, that stuff doesn't work,
mhm.
you know? But I'm stronger for it.
Yeah, when you're made to feel when your trauma is minimized or totally brushed aside by somebody,
Right.
it does. It shakes you to your foundation because you're like, well, then what's wrong with me that I can't handle this? Does this happen to other
Yeah.
people and they're just like okay with it?
I was for a long time because I never dealt with it.
Right. You
So
put
I
it in
was
a
totally
box and you
fine.
put it away, right?
Oh, hi, Annick.
Hi, Annick, how you doing?
Has anybody else heard her voice?
I don't think
I
so.
don't know what it's called. If it's ASMR, like if she read me a book, I would
Yeah.
totally go to sleep.
Right.
Like,
She's got the best the way that she talks.
right? Just hold
She needs to
me.
be a voiceover.
You can love me now.
Oh, awesome. Well, we figured
Do
out a
what?
little bit, Anik, how to put stuff up. I'm on Restream. I'm going to be using StreamYard, though, this weekend. So a whole nother learning curve. But
You're doing great.
I'll say it was good for me. How about that?
She's doing great.
The alternative is just not peaceful. And put up here. Yeah. You know, one of the things that they talked about with the trauma and the memory is that specifically with the repressed memories, people who start having flashes or full memories that are coming back after they haven't had them for 5, 10, 30 years, whatever, they, and by they I always just mean the experts, right, say that is your brain's way of telling you that it feels safe enough that it can deal with these memories. There's been enough time and or distance for the brain to say, it's okay, we can do this. You can remember this now.
Yeah.
And I
That's
thought
a good way to
that
look
was
at it.
incredibly interesting in just how much our brain automatically protects us from stuff. We think consciously, right, that we do this.
Right,
Think about
right.
how much subconsciously our brain is protecting us from trauma and has.
Oh Lord, yeah.
You know, I think about that first time. I was 4 years old, and I only remember bits and pieces, and I only ever did. I mean,
They say it's
maybe the
best
next
not
day
to
you could have asked
remember.
me, but what?
They say it's best not to remember. The therapist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was asking about that. I'm like, I've had these weird things happening since I was little. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that means? And he said, well, either way, you don't want to remember.
Hmm.
And I thought,
Interesting.
well, that's true, because it's more things that you would have to deal with anyways, and you have enough on your plate.
Yeah.
But, it's not clear. It's always the same thing. So at least it's just that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. You know, it's just for years, I always wondered because I just was like, did something actually happen, or did my brain just kind of
Right.
make this? Was there some other, did I get scared for some other reason? I was only 4. I mean, did I get scared of
No.
my first sleepover? You know, was I scared for some other reason? But, you know, I put that together with, there was can you see this? Yeah, there's a private chat that goes on to the side. Oh, wait a minute. Yay, there's Sandy. I can make you go. Woohoo!
She got in there.
Yeah! All right, we got a party
Sandy!
going on here. All right, we got this.
Who's making popcorn?
Yeah, exactly. Wish I could eat popcorn. My goodness. What was I just
We can
saying?
hear you, Sandy.
Totally forgot. Totally forgot what I was just saying. Oh, for me, I had years afterwards where, and I swear, I mean, I this is what I remember now, and it always seemed to come once or twice a year. It wasn't, you know, didn't happen all the time type of thing. And it was where I'd be dreaming, and there was like just somebody up there, just head and hands basically was all I'd get, and just very shadowy type thing. And as I dreamt, this person just came closer and closer and closer until I woke up screaming. And I'd had this for years. And my mom had her mom do this to her and said, okay, well, we're going to take that memory, we're going to take whatever that is, and we're going to put it in a pretty, pretty, pretty box. Imagine that box. And then imagine locking the key. And she goes, I'm taking the key. So you can't get into it, even if you want to. I have the key. And lo and behold, my little brain didn't have any more of those. I didn't, not that memory anyway, not that specific nightmare. Again, just goes to show you how incredible our brains are. That
They think on such a different level that we will never be able to understand.
Yeah.
But my gosh, we have what, 10% of our brains is what we're using?
They say 10, they say
Like
20.
consciously.
Some people say that's a total myth, that it's not that way, but certainly
I feel like it's 3% maybe.
seriously could be in some of us. You know, the potential, I can see that the potential is there for more. And because you have people who have photographic memories, or people who can remember what they ate, and they can remember the entire day, every single day of their lives. There are people like this. So you ask them, okay, on May 15th, 55, depending on how old you were, whatever, what did you do? They said, well, I woke up, I put these clothes on, I did this. That's just how their brain goes. They can remember everything. Now, they are severely challenged in other areas. So it makes me wonder, yeah, is there a way that if we could have all of those pieces going? Because generally, don't we find somebody's a musical savant, but they have a lot of trouble in either talking or walking or other cognition issues, right?
Well, my daughter always tells me, she says, Mom, you are the most smart dummy I've ever met.
Thank you,
She
child.
says, you were just brilliant sometimes with your ideas. She says, but then other times it's like, wake up.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause
Hello.
I just, you know,
Right.
but, I'm like, well, the nut did not fall very far from the tree. So,
There you go. Misty.
you know, I actually have memories from whenever it could just be that I think that these are my memories. But whenever I was younger, I remember going to my happy place and it was like a warm, soft, pink, like veils and just veils and veils and veils all over the place. It was just such a feeling I've never felt any other time, but I can think back now and I can still feel it. And other than that, my actual memories from my life,
Mm-hmm.
I have very few. I maybe have a couple hundred. I mean, I do not have memory like anybody else I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And it never got me until just a few years ago how bad it is. But I have more of my memories in my dreams that feel more comfortable to me than the actual reality, which is crazy.
Well, I say crazy is just a spectrum of understanding. You know, I mean,
Well, I mean, some crazy is good.
gotta be a little
I
nuts,
woke up
right?
beating on my husband, and I woke up to him saying, "You cannot hit me." And I was like, "What? Of course I can't."
Oh my.
Yeah, I didn't mean to, but he cheated on me in my dream. And for
I
some
mean,
reason, I
I've
kept
had dreams
hitting.
like I know what you're talking about.
I felt so bad when I woke up. I would never
Yes,
hit him. I swear I wouldn't. Like, we're not like that. And I felt
exactly.
really bad. I was like, "Oh, I am so sorry."
Yeah,
But you can't help it. It's
yeah.
in your
You know,
sleep.
you're dreaming,
right.
and um, I want to say one thing first, and then I want to get to a comment Miss D said. Well, first, Anik, something obviously you said, Davy said was wonderful, and she really thanks you for it. And I think everybody who is here and everybody who supports each other. I mean, that's what this is about. No matter how many or few of us are here, if you watch on replay, if you connect through, you know, if we connect through the lifeboat or, you know, on Meet a Meeting or, you know, other channels, we see each other and we're always shouting out to each other. And I just, that it warms
Love it.
my heart so much. Um, I have to say, I was visiting a friend of mine, just real quick. I was visiting a friend of mine a couple weekends ago, and it was the start of my my nightmares, really. And they've been going on for 3 or 4 days, but I woke up and I nearly hit him. He ducked just at the right time, right? I nearly hit him, and I was screaming. And you know, bless his soul, he handled it absolutely perfectly. But he's like, "What the hell did I do?" I said, "It actually wasn't you. It was the guy standing next to you. It was your friend. That's who I was mad at. That's who I was trying to hit. It wasn't you. You were fine." He's like, "Oh, okay, good." But
No, I was
honestly,
mad at him and he was scared shitless. He was just like, "What is wrong with you?" Oh, I'm not allowed to curse. I'm sorry.
oh, my channel, you can curse.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
But he was scared and mad at the same time, and I think it scared him too because he was just like, "What is happening? Why are you hitting me?"
yeah.
A
Well,
little bit of
especially
guilt.
something totally out of the blue, right?
It was. Well, for me, I swear. I mean, I
Right.
am rough and everything, but that's with my words, not with my hands.
Exactly. Were you kind of just a sliver awake when you were hitting?
No,
No, you
I
weren't.
woke up, sat up in bed, hitting his thigh, and the light was on. He had turned the light on, and I was
Oh, so
still
you had
dreaming.
already been going.
Yeah, I don't
Generally, I'm
even
Oh,
trying
know.
to
wow.
pull my punch or something because there's just an itty bitty piece of me that realizes that this is not reality, but I can't stop it. There's nothing
I
I can do.
wish I had. I just woke up to him saying, "You cannot hit me," and I was like, "Of course!" Like in my brain,
I agree.
like,
I agree. I agree.
why are you saying this to me, and why are the lights on?
Right. Exactly.
You
What the
know,
heck,
because
man?
I wasn't angry. I just was dreaming.
Yeah, yeah, it totally can happen. Misty says, my doc says I wasn't there to begin with in regards to the disassociation, so I might never remember. Yeah, absolutely. And that makes perfect sense too, right? depending, again, it really goes back to what we were talking about last week. Or I should, yeah, I guess it was last week, Saturday, about the trauma in the first place and how that imprints on you, right? So how bad is the trauma? How significant is it to you? What's your age? What culture do you come from? What things are you used to? All of these factors are going to go into how, what your support system is like afterwards. Do you have anybody to talk to about any of this trauma going on in your life? All of that is going to affect how bad that trauma is. I guess that's the easiest way of saying it, right? So,
I just made a connection.
yeah.
My mom is like a super germaphobe. Everything had to be really clean.
Uh-huh.
And after that, I was showering 3 times a day. So that's probably why, because it's like that. I couldn't figure out why I would do that. I thought I was just a clean freak, but if you think about it, they all
Well,
were.
Yeah.
because you got it from your mom.
Right. And then I just
Yeah.
dealt with it that way because I mean, you feel gross afterwards. You feel like something's wrong with you,
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
you know? But
Because
I
doesn't
just thought
society
of
treat
that.
us that way?
I didn't think it was related. I thought I was just like, and I heard it once that like showering a lot was like a thing.
Mm,
And so I was like, oh, I'm not
yeah.
just alone.
Like we can shower that incident away.
I thought I could.
Yeah.
Clean. And I am a clean freak.
Hmm.
So that's how I deal with my upset. If I'm really angry, my house is spotless.
Next time you're angry, just drive north.
I'm telling
Right.
you. I'm one of those friends that comes in handy because I'll just clean as we talk.
I'm great at cleaning other people's houses. I just suck at my own.
Yeah.
Oh no, I love cleaning. It's an obsession.
But isn't it? It's like dealing with other people's problems. It's easier because it's
True,
not
it
That's
is
your own
more
shit.
fun at somebody else's house. It's new stuff. It's not mine.
Right.
And it just
And we can fix other people's problems so much easier than we can ourselves.
because our emotions aren't involved to the degree that we are. We get so
Exactly.
stuck in our own brains and in our own trauma that we've dealt with for years and years and years that it is difficult to say. And it's only through dealing with this, through dealing with my addiction, that all of a sudden I'd have some of these aha moments, just like Dana did. It's like, oh my gosh, that relates to that. Why did I never see that before? Well,
Right.
it would just be a piece of information that you were missing and going, well, that's how you deal with trauma or whatever,
Probably why
And
I
so,
should journal more.
yeah, I definitely do. I go in spades. The problem with me with journaling is it'll be 8 pages later and I'm like, I've got to start my day eventually, but I can write
Right.
and write and write and write and write. And that's so then I go to journal at the end of the day and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I know if I start writing, it's going to be at least 4 or 5 pages later and probably a half an hour, 45 minutes. So it's a time thing for me. And I know it shouldn't
I
be,
have a
but
love affair with words.
Do you see Izzy's comment? She said,
And
I just realized that my insomnia is getting worse and it's related to an assault.
oh, here
That's
is
huge.
absolutely. I had to realize that the nightmares that I was getting is because of all of the stuff all the trauma that I'm dredging up with this, but I'm not, because I'm not really looking at my stuff. I'm looking at this in a way of being able to digest it and present it to you guys so that it makes sense. And I haven't been really looking at it as it applies to me and my things. And I think that my nightmares are the way of doing that, because I cannot count the amount of times that I have woken up screaming, kicking. I was on my couch and I woke up yelling for help. Thank God my neighbors didn't hear me.
Mine's
Yeah,
F you. Can
it's
you
kind of
imagine
been
my
bad.
neighbors hearing that?
I,
In the middle of the night, just fuck you. I mean, seriously. Like, my
yeah,
poor neighbors should be scared of me by this point.
you know, And as a
I didn't
neighbor,
think of that. They could hear it's the middle of the night.
see, but having gone through this, and as a neighbor, I always, where's that point do you step in? Where does that point where you realize, well, something is wrong? This isn't just, a child screaming at their parent, or, it's always a tricky line there. And that's always been a difficulty for me. But
Well, I live in the South. I bet you they would text me. No, really. I mean, if there's gunshots, they all ask because they know I have insomnia. So,
oh, okay.
and being from California, I know if it's a 22, a shotgun, an automatic. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
wow.
No, that's
Is
not a
it,
talent.
yeah, seriously,
Right.
that is a talent.
Maybe it
Izzy,
is.
Izzy, I wanted to touch base with you. How are you feeling right now? Now that you've kind of made this connection, do you feel like it's something that you'll be able to deal with, to take on, or does it need to kind of still play itself out a little bit more?
Yeah, I
Not
think
that your
what they're
insomnia will end tomorrow. He says, as he does say, just having community and being in a safe space is putting my mind at ease more than years of therapy. Yeah, I told the story um, the other time about my last girlfriend who I had, and the last people who I was really close to before that, almost coincided with that, were the people at my dojo. And when I got married, it was to somebody else who was in that dojo, and we needed to leave for a lot of reasons. My husband being an alcoholic, they don't really have friends, they're in isolation. And so that put me in isolation. And then I had a kid, and seriously, I never went on a date with him after we got married. Never. So being here, and I was just talking to Misha about this before, and I don't know how much this is for the rest of you, but having this community, and for us, it's I think we're all women. I don't think I've seen a man in any of the subscribers, but having girlfriends, people willing to be there for me and listen to this shit, whether it's the addictions, or whether it's the trauma because of the assaults, or whether it's the trauma because you're dealing with your family who just either brushed it aside and didn't believe you, or you were too scared to mention it, for either because of your perpetrator or because of your family. I was always so scared of my dad. I just, I couldn't imagine telling him something. I didn't know what he'd do. I didn't think he'd do anything to me, but I didn't know what he would do. And so it was
Right.
like, oh, no, we'll just keep that to myself. And so being certain, feeling comfortable, and being certain that you guys are going to be there, that's taking some accepting to do.
Yeah.
There's still a piece of me that wonders, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? When is somebody going to go, okay, yeah. I've got somebody else to talk to.
Yeah, there's most of us have had the DTA philosophy for a long time, and
what's
this whole
DTA?
experiment that we're doing here online it's something totally different too. I've been balls to the walls, and I am who I am,
Mhm.
because I'm so used to being betrayed, let down, abandoned, all that good stuff,
Right.
that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I'd rather it be done ahead of time, and that way I don't have to, it's a lot easier in the first, few months if you're going to do it to me. But
Yeah.
I just figure if it's going to be, then I'm just going to be all me, and that's all I can do, and just give it 100%, because otherwise I'm second guessing, and I'm shorting myself
Yeah.
any chance of having anything. And so it hurts. It hurts really bad whenever you've got somebody that does that to you, though.
Yeah. I'm kind of going through that a little bit with somebody, not you guys. And it just, it does, it just kind of makes me wonder. But
Yeah.
And so, Izzy, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're with us. I'm so glad that we can be there for you. And you've got multiple ways to contact us, and please do.
Well, and I wanted to say thank you because usually if you share this information, you traumatize another person. And that's the
Um,
last thing I'm trying to do.
right,
Right.
You know, you get that, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's
right.
okay.
They don't know what to do with
So,
the information.
yeah, so I just wanted
Right.
to say thank you for creating a safe space for us all to say these things that you couldn't say otherwise.
Oh, you're welcome.
Exactly.
You're welcome. I mean, I knew that I needed it, and as soon as I saw that I couldn't find any, there's educational channels, and there's tons of people talking about it and talking about what it is and how you heal from trauma and all these kind of things. But um, to have an old style chat room in a way.
Right.
Misty says a theory: if what you can't fight in the daytime, do you fight out in your dreams? I think absolutely.
Mhm.
It's your subconscious way of dealing through problems, and it doesn't always deal with things in a linear fashion, and it's not always going to deal with the things that were going on that particular day. It might combine some different things, but I certainly believe that it's your way of working through things. And that's again why journaling and either keeping a dream journal, just writing things down as soon as you can when you wake up, and being able to look at that and see, is there any rational thought in here, once you get through a while, and combine that with your daytime journaling, or your whether you do it during the day or whether you're doing it at night. Then you can see, well, okay, are there any correlations here? Are there any other aha moments that I can do? um, Sandy said your parents knew and they were zero help, and unfortunately that happens to so many people. um, it came out when I was 14. Not a whole lot of details, but it did come out. But it came out, and that was it. That was it. I was kind of like, oh, okie dokie. I guess I deal with this. So, yeah, when your parents aren't giving you any guidance in that kind of way, again, you're second guessing yourself as to, is this really a big deal? I know
It
that
feels
that
like a big deal, but nobody's acting like it is.
yeah,
So maybe,
yeah,
yeah,
growing
you
up,
it's yourself.
especially for me with my, the first one I'm not really remembering, and being so young, and then it being a child on child, I was just, and then, it being inappropriate, but there wasn't any physical touching. So I felt again, really, is it a big deal? Should I, even be worried about it? Should this have even bothered me? Yeah, I sure. And then when my mom just kind of brushed it aside when I told her, and then again at 14, it came out, and it was like, oh, okay, and yeah, you grow up the rest of the time going, am I making a mountain out of a molehill, out of a lot of things, I think. Because if something this significant really isn't that big of a deal for people,
Right.
what is?
But then somebody can take a little long in the grocery line, a little bit longer than they need to in your eyes, then it's a whole great big, the world has to stop. The thing with our society is we do not validate our own feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so unfair, regardless of whether they're right or wrong as far as society is concerned. You feel this way. So then you need to be able to validate those feelings and not feel ashamed for looking at them and addressing them.
And how did you grow up? Were your feelings validated as you grew up? Because I'll tell you this much. There was one way to do things in my house. It was the right way. And that was the way my dad did it. That's it.
My
There
entire
was
life,
no, let me
was
figure it out and be a kid and have my brain do it the wrong way and realize, oh, okay, that's because I have to do it this way. With my own son, that was a big struggle. going, no, let him figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad's view on things is, but I know the easiest, quickest way to do it. So why don't you just take my advice on that? He does not understand. He is a Marine and he's an engineer. And those two things do not go with creativity and just trying to figure things out and going with the flow. That's, not.
I'm
So,
curious with people like that, though, how they found out to get the answers themselves. How did they find them out? Did they have to
well,
experience that to get them, or did they just get them from passed on? Because I don't know any of this stuff. I have no idea about like different family relations.
well,
And so
for
I'm
my
just
dad, it was, you got answers in the Marine Corps. I mean, you did what you were told, and that was that. And engineering is teaching you a definite path. There's a path to do something. There's an A to a B, and that's the way to do things. And he may have improved on things in his brain and made it quicker because his job was an industrial engineer. His job was to figure out how do we position this equipment to making these products the most efficient that we can while still taking care of our workers ergonomically. So his whole being was that. There was, and my mom is the antithesis of that, which is just hilarious, I think. So that's, for my dad, that's how he, he was, and he came from a family where it was, Polish Catholic. My grandfather was the authoritarian figure, within it. My grandmother, meek, mild, made the food, kept the house, very stereotypical 40s, 50s upbringing. So, I wonder about some of you guys, Sandy, if you didn't have any help from your parents, your feelings obviously weren't validated. You weren't getting the, yeah, it's okay to feel this either. Gypsy says that she was terrified to tell her family because your mom would blame you and your dad would end up in jail. Yeah, that is a huge thing. And it's one of the things that we're going to deal with, I think, in a separate video when we deal with childhood trauma and childhood sexual assault, is interfamily, whether it's nuclear family or extended family, versus it being a, somebody you trusted, a baseball coach or, somebody like that, or a family friend. Breaking up the family is huge because you go, yeah, it's still my dad, right? It's still my dad. No matter what he's done to me, it's still my dad. And, I think about, there's an interesting YouTuber, his name's Colin Landry, and he testified at his dad's trial when he was 10, and his dad had killed his mom. And he saw it. And he goes through his journey and how he's felt about that, and the complicated feelings that you go through going, that's my dad, but he killed my mom, so how do you reconcile all of that? Gypsy, has it come out in your family now? Do people know?
I've been working on building a trauma timeline application. There's so many timelines, but there's no actual trauma timelines, which I thought was just wow. So I've started building one myself, and I've tried to go through and write 100 memories that I have of my life. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of like making a biography of everything that I've went through, because I still have no clue of all the things because I've not addressed them. I've not looked at them. And I feel like I've got a giant weight on the back of my shoulders and I cannot get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And the only way that for me, I can do anything, because I trust people, but as far as taking from me and taking it off my plate, it's never really went well. And so I've always felt that I have to do it. So if that's the case, then I'm going to make a trauma timeline, and I'm going to go through and try to at least validate for myself. You went through this, this, and this, and it's okay. You're okay now, but it was not okay for that to happen.
Right.
You know, kind of just get to my own on my feelings towards that, because I think that's the only way I'll ever, you know, I just realized whenever I went out to the cemetery this last time, I cussed my mom out, and it's the first time I ever realized I was angry at her 30 years later for dying.
Yeah.
You know,
one thing I really, really, really want to stress. First off, I want to address Izzy. She said, yes, I don't share my story because I'm not looking to bum anyone out for days. Coming here, I know we're in a healing space. Absolutely. And as I said before, you can share your story. You cannot. It does not matter. We know you're here, and we know you have trauma to deal with, and you're welcome. And one of the things that I want to stress as we go through trauma and how to heal and the different effects of trauma, because we are going to take a deep dive into depression and PTSD and PTSD and, you know, all of that, is there isn't any one way to heal. I'm going to give you guys as many tools as I possibly can, as many things that I can find that seem to be, you know, generally accepted, because not everything's going to work for you. You know,
right.
Somebody who's dissociated and who doesn't really have any memories, you know, a trauma timeline might not work for them because they just know that from X age to Y age, I had trauma. And so I want to encourage everybody to take the tools that work for you and chuck the rest of them. Put them aside, and maybe one will later on will be helpful for something. But I don't want you to feel like this tool isn't doing anything for me, so you're doing something wrong. No, you just need to find another one. And it's why things don't work out with every therapist, right? I mean, I can't count the number of therapists that I would go through. You'd have one or two visits and going, this just isn't going to work. We're not clicking, you know? And I never shared my sexual assault with them. So I was never going to get to the root of my trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do some, right? You know, issues with my dad, issues with my mom, issues with my brother. But there was such a core there that I was never going to touch. That talk therapy for me in the traditional sense never really helped all that much. And I know they say cognitive behavioral therapy, and it works for a lot of people. And I think there are certain aspects of cognitive therapy that you can take. Natalie Webster, and I really, really want to talk to her. I sent a couple of emails, and I'm going to keep, because she did it herself. She did YouTube videos basically and taught herself how to do cognitive therapy on herself.
Right on.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know what she took from that she was able to apply. You know, what were the things that struck out to her that she said, okay, this is how I need to think now, because I think that would be so helpful.
For real. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you say her name was?
What
was her name again?
Natalie Webster. She does Scientology, Life After a Cult. Okay. And there was one episode she was speaking about how she had been having trouble walking. She had been walking, then things degenerated basically, and she was down to barely being able to walk, and they were trying to find a physical reason for it. This is one of the things that I didn't touch on, but you know, hopefully we all know that there are mental effects of trauma, but there's physical effects of trauma as well. You know, your trauma can be the reason that you have digestive issues. You know, it can be the reason that you have back pain because of the stress that you hold from that trauma and you don't realize it. So that's something we're going to talk a lot more about on Saturday. But for her, she finally went to a neurologist because they're thinking, okay, nerve issues, well, walking and everything. And he was a special type of, he wasn't a neurologist. I don't know if they call him a neuroscientist or there was a different term for it. And he said, basically, your brain is not computing things properly because of your trauma, and it's misfiring. And so it's not being able to tell your muscles exactly what to do in the right way.
Yeah.
How fascinating. And she's back to the point now, I think it's taken her maybe a year or something, that she can't walk a ton, but she can walk without a cane now. I mean, just
Wow.
absolutely, yeah, amazing stuff. I really want to talk to her and find out, what she took from that. She is another person, and she has shared a lie, so it's nothing that I am outing her on. But she had a sexual assault, and she was in Scientology as well. Wasn't by a Scientologist, but it was during that period of time. And of course, if you guys follow Scientology at all, everything is your fault. It's your reactive mind. You've drawn it on yourself. So of course, 100%, she was told from the get-go, this was your fault. You brought this on. What a wonderful thing to tell a victim, right? Because at that point, you're a victim. You haven't survived anything. You're just afterwards, right? I just, and some of you guys may have been told that, or feared being told that.
I just felt that way because I put myself in the position. I went to a car show with a girl I barely knew, and it was over at her friend's house. When I went to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden, I got pulled into another room.
But you went with a girl, right? To some place that you assumed would be safe. We don't live our lives wondering if there's going to be, somebody around the corner going to a party at a friend's house.
It wasn't even like a rager. It was just like 10 people
milling around.
Yeah, it was weird.
And still the self-blame. It's easier. I think it is easier because then we have control, right?
True.
You're trying to deal with something. Your mind's trying to process something, a trauma that you had no control over. That is the definition of trauma, right? We talked about this last time, that you suffer trauma from an event. So the event was the assault itself, because it's fight, flight, or freeze about something you have no control over.
Yeah.
And so when we blame ourselves, at least we're saying, okay, yeah, no, I did it.
Well, nobody knew what happened, and I didn't say a word. I didn't tell the girl that I went with. She just said, "Where did you go?" And I was like, "I don't know."
It's not an easy thing to say, especially if it's not something that's, really talked about in your circles or within your family. Or that is one of the reasons why, I hope that saying the word sexual assault in a context like this eventually gets to the point where YouTube will not demonetize people for it, because we're dealing with healing here, and it's the same type of thing where they have come along on certain words as time has gone on, because the more we talk about this and the more we talk about it with people who haven't experienced it, the more education we get to people, the more we can normalize this, the more people are going to feel comfortable to come forward if something happens. If you're talking to your kids and you say, listen, if anything ever happens, this, that, or the other thing, or whatever, please come tell me. It's not your fault. I'm not going to blame you. There's not going to be any repercussions for you. Don't worry about that. Then that child has some frame of reference. A, they kind of know what they're looking for, and B, they know that their parent's going to take care of them or is going to support them in that way.
Well, there's the compounded trauma on top of the other trauma of what's going to happen in the afterfall. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if
society and our, you know, the survivors have to go through so much to prove when it does get to that point to prove that this happened, and they have to relive and relive, and they have to, all these strangers gets to hear this story, and you have to relive it, and there's all of that, and then you're threatened with losing your family, you're threatened with all these different things. I mean, I got arrested whenever I went to report the girl's uncle. You know, I got arrested for that. Nothing ever happened to him. And so, you know, there's all these extra things that society likes to put on us that we don't know how to deal with because they don't deal with it correctly in a lot of instances.
No,
you know?
I mean, we're victimized again by the stigma of this having happened to us. Something we had no control over. And if you talk to most people nowadays, most enlightened people, they will say to you, well, yeah, of course, you know, you're a victim. That there's, you know, but they still don't know what to do with that information. They don't know how to, and then it's like you don't know if they're going to look at you differently, you know.
Right.
And so normalizing, we have to normalize this conversation, you know, just like, you know, just like anything else, you know, just like talking about alcoholism or talking about, you know, addictions, or, you know, it used to be talking about people with disabilities, you know, all these things that we're going to go through generation of generation. And hopefully with, you know, my kids or my kids' kids, this is going to be something that for them, somebody discloses to them, and they're going to know how to handle it, or at least they're going to know somebody to go to, and they're going to be supportive of that person. That's my goal in life. And God, you know, if we could see that, what a wonderful world it would be, right? I wanted to put this up. Miss D said, just give a trigger warning, please. Please share. I do have a trigger warning on every single video. However, if it's helpful to you, because I know everybody's at a different place when it comes to talking about actual sexual assaults. So if we're going to go into any types of details, we're going to talk about our own sexual assault itself. If we want to just say trigger warning, I'm just going to mention this. That could be helpful. I know I may forget, so you may have to remind me as well. And if I ever trigger somebody, I am extremely sorry. Take care of yourself. If you got to pop out, if you got to end, but please make sure you tell me that I triggered you so that I know not to do that again. And I need to be more aware of it. And I'll put a big Post-it note on my computer so that I can try and remember that when I'm talking about things as well. Izzy, you share whenever you feel comfortable. And I'm just glad you feel that you have a good space here. And Sandy, for some reason, he's just not having luck with the link today. Using StreamYard this weekend, so maybe you'll have better luck with that, and we should be able to do the same thing. Misty on weekdays, more like I have a toddler, otherwise you're going to hear. Yeah, Wednesdays my son is gone, but you would never hear him anyway. He's in the basement. I gave him the basement eventually when he got a little more grown. So I'm out of those years. Everyone's gone through it. Gypsy Daisy says, my mother was a narcissist, my dad an alcoholic. Yeah. You know, and so you look at yourself and you go, well, wonderful support system I had there. You know, who could I trust? And doesn't that come down to it? Who in our lives could we trust with this information? Because it certainly seems like a big deal to ourselves, right? Even my 7-year-old self. This was a deal. I didn't know how big of a deal, but I still didn't know how to trust somebody with that information. So when you don't have that kind of support system, your trauma is just going to continue. Yeah, you have no frame of reference to be able to of revealing tough stuff, right? And of talking with things. certainly never happened in my family. I grew up with a family that yelled, whether it was yelling upstairs to, hey, get out down here, or whether it was yelling at each other. My family, we were yellers. And it's very hard to break myself of that. And Izzy says, well, a trauma timeline sounds like a great idea for her. Sounds like a great tool. Your head feels like a sieve from ADHD and CPSD, and it feels like I'm constantly having to convince myself that I did go through what I did. Yeah, because isn't that our self-protection mechanism, right? I mean, we like putting things in a box and shoving them away and not having to deal with them because that shit hurts. It does. And if doing something like a trauma timeline versus just, a straight journal and writing on it that way, whatever works for you, whatever works for you. I found that I had to have a separate journal from when I wanted to really think about things. Peel that onion back, right? Otherwise, I would just talk and talk and talk about what happened during the day. I mean, in minutia. But I felt like I was never getting to the important stuff. And I think if I went back through and read and I'd make connections, and there probably would be, but I never felt like I was really, truly dealing with that stuff. So I had to have a separate notebook that I would then go to and say, okay, I got to a topic and it was like, oh yeah, that's something I should really look at. And I had to write about it in a separate notebook. So for me, that's for me how I've dealt with it. Again, trauma timeline, just regular journal, take what works, shove the rest aside. But, more and more in my research, I'm finding that they're saying that ADHD is actually a symptom of depression. And I don't understand that connection yet enough to talk about it. But it's certainly something that I'm looking into even more. And when we get to doing deep dives on these, if some of you, like Izzy, you have CPTSD, that. So if somebody wants to pop up and say, this is, my experience with it, these are the things that I was taught, or whatever, feel free. And you can do that without even, talking about your assaults at all.
It feels good to know that there's other people that we can talk to about those things.
Yeah.
That you can actually connect and say, okay, that explains me. I understand that one.
Yeah.
I go to do one thing, end up doing 200 other things.
Because there's just something particular about people go, well, I lived through, war, or I lived through this horrible trauma. Yes, horrible, horrible trauma. But there's just that particular element about dealing with a sexual assault. It's something so personal. It's taking a piece of you. When you don't consent to that sense of violation, that somebody else has a right to something, there's nothing else that I can compare it to. And I think that that's why it's so uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about that, and the fact that we don't talk about sex freely as well, right?
Right.
And that's one of the things with education that we're going to talk about, is that when you say the word sexual assault, it doesn't have to mean that there was intercourse with a man.
Right.
And that's why we're going to go through child on child. We're going to go through, just touching and what is considered an assault. Because I think it's really important that we identify those things so that we can validate ourselves and go, yeah, I was assaulted. And if it had a sexual connotation to it, it's a sexual assault. So it doesn't need to be that typical idea of what we think of. That's what I had in my brain. So I thought, well, One was a kid, the other one wasn't. So I don't really have a right to put myself in this category, even though I felt like I was in that category. Misty, I'm not going to throw that up, but I'm reading that, and I am so sorry that your timeline started that early. And my heart absolutely goes out to you. And just know that we're here for you. You never have to discuss your situation if you don't want to, but just know that you've got people who know what it's like. A lot of us went through childhood assaults. I don't know how many of us did had adult assaults, but well, Davey, it sounded like you did. There's something I'm at a loss for words. Sometimes those things will come out in the news, and I'm always just horrified because I do not understand. I've tried a lot. Trigger warning, I'm going to say the P word. I've tried a lot to understand pedophiles. And I'll say pedo from now on. Because for me, I wanted to know how could these people do this? How did their brain get like this? There's the born versus, nature type of thing. And, certainly them being assaulted or them witnessing things is an explanation for some people, but not for everybody. And so just trying to understand what's different. The one thing I have come to understand, and I do want to spend an entire episode on this, but it will be down the road because I want everybody to have had a chance to. We may not be dealing with our trauma any better than we are right now, but we'll have been in this space enough, and I will advertise it enough beforehand that if you don't want to be part of it, you don't have to be part of it. But understanding the pedo brain and how it is different. Does that excuse them? Absolutely not. 100% not. Okay. And that's not what I'm saying. But for me, it's just kind of helpful to see what is going on from the other side. It really helped me understand grooming a lot, listening to a lot of interviews. Because when you can understand that, you can see why they would do this, that, or the other. And it just opened up a whole world to me of what grooming can be and the types of things that can be a part of grooming and how insidious it can be, how slow it can be. I mean, these people can wait years for their ultimate act of, grooming somebody. And that's a lot of time to put into something. We'll talk to you later. Bye, Davey. Love you much.
It's holding you on here.
I'm still here. Miss D had a light bulb moment. Do you want to share? Or maybe later? I'm just going to celebrate. I don't have I'll raise my rock star to you. I don't have a trophy. I need something that says aha, or somebody's exploding head type of thing. I need to get something that represents that. So, because we've had 4 of them, I think, tonight already. Yeah. It's going to happen, people. It's going to happen. I got to think by the end of the year, if we keep meeting like this and we keep talking, whether we want to or not, we're gonna start working through our trauma.
Yeah.
Because just having that support, for me, I know that not questioning that you guys are going to be here not questioning that there's somebody to catch me if I'm falling. If I'm absolutely falling to pieces, that I can talk to one of you guys and you'll completely understand where I'm coming from. And you're going to be there to listen to me and to help me. And I will be there for each and every one of you. You have my email. Get a hold of me that way. I am on the Lifeboat Discord. You can get a hold of me that way as well. If you guys need anything in between lives, please reach out to me. I will do whatever I can. Like you said, it's so much easier dealing with other people's trauma than it is dealing with your own. And I will happily help you. And if I can't or I don't have time, I will find somebody for you and connect you with that person. Okay? We are all each other's resources.
Yep.
And I think that's the wonderful thing about this is we're not relying on one best friend, right?
Yeah.
What if that person's busy? Or in my case, wasn't the
Yeah.
best friend anymore.
Yeah. I think it's important too because a lot of us have, whenever we finally find something like this, and it's so incredible, and it's like, gosh, everything I would ever want to find in a community. I got so excited and so just gung ho that I completely stepped outside of myself and wanted to do so much for the community that I was hindering them as well. And so I have to step back and tell myself that I can't do all these things that I want to do yet.
Mm-hmm.
And to take the guilt off of myself and everybody else too, that we don't have to feel like that because we're here to help each other. And if it starts feeling like a hindrance or
Right.
it's not doing for people the way that you want to help, including
Right.
yourself, to step back, and it's okay because we understand. We don't expect you to save our lives because, we've went through a lot our lives, and, we just want to have somebody there that can be there with us while we help figure ourselves out.
Absolutely.
And, no pressure.
Yourself always comes first. It's the old, when you're on an airplane, what do they tell you to do? Put your own oxygen mask on first so that you can take care of others. Now, if you're a mom and, we talk about self-care and how important it is that you take care of yourself. If you have a young child, obviously they're relying on you for a lot of things. You can't just take care of yourself. And so there's definitely a balancing act. And I think that this type of community then becomes all the more critical because you can come and say, as Izzy said, yeah, people don't know what to do with your pain as a survivor. They just, it's uncomfortable for them. I think if you were to go to somebody and say, I'm experiencing a lot of flashbacks. I've got a lot of trauma that's all of a sudden come up and it's because of this car wreck that I was in. Oh man, that really sucks. I got trauma too. And there's something that they can relate to on some sort of level. But when you add that sexual element in, it just becomes something other.
Yeah.
And people don't want to go there. And that's what we have to change. Yeah. We have to have your average person feeling comfortable hearing about this so that their daughter or their cousin or their friend can feel comfortable coming to them and disclosing to them if something had happened.
Yep. It takes a village.
It does. Gypsy Daisy said the way that she started writing was as a third person. You're sure it's a result of not being allowed privacy. So if someone read it, thought it was a fictional story. Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people doing that. I was always scared my brother would find a journal, and I think he probably did at one point. We don't have much of a relationship. You really won't hear me talk about my brother very much. This is part of where my abandonment issues start. My brother he's older than I am. He could have been an only child, easy. And for all intents and purposes, in a large way, he was, because he just kind of did his own thing. He had no use for a sister. He loves me. I see him once a week. He gives me a hug. He comes on holidays. I know he loves me, but he does not want me as a part of his everyday life. That is separate for him. And I've had to come to accept that. And that was an aha moment actually for me only a couple months ago, realizing that not having him there, not being able to rely on him, on family, that was a real source of abandonment for me. And I hadn't put those two and two together until just a couple months ago. I bet a lot of you in here can relate to abandonment issues in your nuclear family, whether that's your mom or your dad or, sisters that weren't there for you. Gypsy, do you still journal now? Do you still journal in the third person? Misty said she learned a lot from Psych2Go on YouTube. Interesting. I will definitely check that channel out. Some people were addressing the depression and ADHD. Izzy said it's a comorbidity of depression is listed as a comorbidity of ADHD, and so is anxiety. I can certainly see that. So yeah, this is why I want to take a deep dive into these effects. Saturday is going to be a generalized talking about physical and mental effects of trauma. But then we'll start deep dives. And I'm going to take a little bit of a poll as to kind of which ones we start with first, because there's a lot of them that we can deal with. Yeah, none of us are alone. Misty, I was led here by my gut feeling. I'm glad you listened to it. That is something within, I would say probably within the last 6 months, that I've really told myself, you must listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Because there's been things that aren't even a huge deal, but I didn't listen to my gut, and it wasn't a good thing. If I'd listened to my gut, I wouldn't have gotten married both times. My life would have been vastly different. Now, I still would have had the same traumas that I was dealing with. So, I have no idea what it would look like, but it would have been vastly different. And that is such a hard thing, such a hard thing. Izzy, I hope that's one thing you are definitely teaching your children, that we should teach our children. Listen to your gut. There's a reason that we have that feeling. And even if it's nothing more than listening to it to talk to somebody else, say, here's the deal. Here's what my gut is telling me. What do you think? And always get a second opinion. Always. Because that first person may not know what they're talking about. Oh boy, Izzy says, oh boy, a self-care challenge. This is my self-care, the boat, need a meeting. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. We all don't have just, spaces of time where we can put aside to ourselves and pamper ourselves as we, think about taking a bubble bath or going shopping or, doing some of those things that we might think about as self-care. But this is our emotional self-care. And by doing this, becoming this better person, you're becoming a better partner. You're becoming a better parent. And I know that it's not going to affect my dynamic within my family. My parents are in their 70s. They're not going to change. Nothing's going to change with that. But for me, the more I grow, the more I put two and two together, it's easier for me to accept
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
what the way that they are and the way that they continue to be. Um, I know some people they're like, well, that's just how mom is, or that's just how dad is, and I'm like, no, it's driving me absolutely bonkers. No, you can't. I did not know how people could just accept, and I'm starting
And
to go
nobody can accept how that's just how Misha is. You
right.
know,
Yeah,
Misha,
yeah. Do
you just
people,
make sure that you
do
make
people
everybody else happy, and
right? Do
don't worry
people
about yourself.
accept us for just who we are? Um,
Hmm.
I said I just started. Misty said you had to start going no contact. I think you said you live alone as well, right, Misty? If you're still here. Um, so this connection that you're getting through us, wonderful. I'm so thrilled. I could not be happier that
I
you're
love the
finding a
feeling.
place.
I
Hmm?
love the feeling that I get every time I see every one of y'all's names. I get a smile. I get comfort. I'm like, nobody would take up for me before, but now I can take up for myself, and I have people that will take up with me. And
Right.
it's not me against the world. And that is such an amazing feeling. Just seeing you guys' names makes me breathe a little easier.
We talked about accepting that there's people who accept me, who like me, who want to talk to me, not just because they're part of this forum or part of one of the other forums. That you would reach out to me in another type of circumstance. I'm still I'm still working on accepting that. It's something that's really, really, really hard for me. I moved every 3 years when I was a kid. I went to 2 different kindergartens. Um, I'm going to play when we go through the childhood trauma. I'm going to play this little clip. It's probably about 2 minutes long, and it's a little cartoon of basically bubble stick figures with faces, I think. But it went through how you have this trauma and how that affects your social skills and how you go through. And I just went, you just explained my entire childhood. It was mind boggling. I still haven't quite processed it all because it just hit on everything that I went through. So I'm still processing that one. Um, but yesterday I saw you guys all on the lifeboat, and I did. I got that feeling, but I was so down and I was so destroyed. I didn't feel like I don't know. I didn't feel like I deserved you guys, or I couldn't participate on the happiness scale that everybody else seemed to be. So I didn't deserve to be in that chat. Well, that's why I wasn't very vocal in that one. So I have a hard time with that. It's kind of goes to you don't want to bring everybody down, right? Nobody when they ask how are you, nobody wants to hear the real truth. Well, here they do, and that's amazing and heartwarming and touching and something I still am learning to accept. Izzy says, in regards to what I said before, I am the guardian of my girl's light, raising a strong-willed, brave little human who's already comfortable with the word no, doesn't fear her parents, and knows the strength of her voice. Izzy, I am so proud of you. So, so, so proud of you. And we will make sure that we get through the childhood sexual education. I'm sure that you've already spoken to her in age appropriate contexts or constructs. It sounds like you've got a little one, so there's not a whole lot at this point to talk about. But allowing kids to have boundaries that
it's not the word no. No, you can't say no to everything I say. No, that can't be. You can't have boundary with everything. But there are certain things that you can have boundaries with, and my boy got to a point where he was like, Mom, I don't want you to come in my room without knocking. Okay, I can do that. That was one of his things. And that's the boundary that he wanted. And, as our kids grow, they should be able to set those. And we have to respect them, because if we as parents aren't respecting them, why should they expect anybody else?
And if we don't respect ourselves, they're going to grow up thinking that they deserve just as much as we do. And so they're not going to allow or expect or demand respect for themselves.
Yeah.
My daughter blew me away one time. She's brilliant, and she's able to explain things to me that it just blows my mind. But she told me about how with my grand princess, she was not going to hug if she didn't feel like hugging. And I never realized, but anytime somebody would come over, I'd be like, well, give them a hug, goodbye.
Yeah.
Because that's how I was raised. It's you are there to be, you're the hostess of the mostest, and I did that to my kids, and I never realized it until Grand Princess.
That's your aunt.
And now, if she doesn't feel like hugging me, I'm like, okay, whatever, rude.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful to see her say, no, I don't feel like doing that. She's not rude. She's very polite about it. She's just very matter of fact. I don't feel like doing this, and I don't feel like I should have to. And it's not anything that, that is brilliant. That is so incredible. I wish to God I could have done that to myself.
My son, I was doing it. And it was my son who set his own boundary and said, no, I don't want to. I'm uncomfortable with that. And we had to sit down and have a real discussion about this. And I had to, why was I doing this? Why was I insisting? And so, we did. We had a real discussion about it. And then I said, okay, okay. Could you please give your grandparents a hug at least? Turn your face backwards if they try to give you a kiss. But can you please do that to Nana? Nana would be very heartbroken if you didn't. Could you do me that one favor? And she did. Misty says, all survivors shine a light so bright we can't help but find each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Isn't that weird? It is. I think the people we seem to grow closest to, we realize that we do have generally a common trauma of some sort. At least the people that I've generally closest to.
So there goes my dog. So I think that is my cue.
Okay. Not a problem.
I wasn't even planning on coming on here today, girl, but I'm glad I did. Thank you for offering the space up.
I'm so glad that you did as well. And I will definitely talk to you later, if not tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Sounds good.
All right,
guys. It's so good to see you guys. Mwah.
Mwah. Take care. Izzy says, thank you for sharing. I do that too. When I'm on the level of the happiness scale, I clam up. Yeah. It goes back to, who wants to bring down the party, right? And that's why it's so important that we have each other and that we can reach out to each other and say, yeah, I'm having a crappy day. Yeah, I don't know how to deal with this trauma. And it may be day after day after day after day. And if you've got just that one friend who you're talking to, either they may get to the point and say, had enough, that can we talk about something else? You just maybe don't want to do something with you because they know that you're going to talk about it again and don't want to, or you get to the point where you're just like, you know what, I've been a downer for so many days in a row. I'm not going to go out anymore. I'm not going to talk to people anymore because this is all I have to talk about because it's the only thing on my mind. So it's good that we have a community as well, because no one person can be the source of your strength. We're much, much stronger together, right? Many are stronger than one. Gypsy Daisy said, I feel like that every day. Yeah. And so Gypsy, you know now that you have this community here. And if you suffer from any sort of addiction, I don't know if you're on the lifeboat or not. A lot of us are. You can find us over there. You can find a lot of us on Discord. Reach out to me. My email address is in the description. Okay, surviving together, SASS @gmail.com. Why SASS? Surviving together @gmail was taken. I didn't want to do numbers. And so SAS was also taken, believe it or not. So sexual assault survivors support, or supporting survivors, or that's kind of how I got. And SAS, I like SAS, right? I think we're all sassy on our own little level. So that maybe helpful to remember my Gmail. Okay, Izzy's saying the same thing we were just talking about. Yeah, at this point in her development, I'm reinforcing consent. No hug, cool beans. Yeah, and I didn't put that together. You know, that when I was making my child do this, that what am I telling them? Yeah, I'm telling them that there are certain circumstances where somebody else has a right to do something to you, and you don't have a right to say no. Beyond the doctor, there isn't a whole heck of a lot. You got an injury, I need to see. There isn't a whole heck of a lot where it's going to come to that type of stuff where you should not be able to say no when it comes to your body. And hugging and giving a kiss to somebody, it never dawned on me to put it in that same consent bucket. Because, like, you know, Michi said, we were both grown up that way. It's your family. You give them a hug and a kiss. That's just the way it was. And if they were good friends of the family, you did as well. I think this is wonderful. And from the sounds of it, Izzy, you're an absolutely phenomenal mom. Miss D, bye. We'll definitely talk to you later. You said yes, so you're probably on the other things. So wonderful. I had a hard time with letting my child kind of do their own thing and taking their time. And usually it's because we lived an hour away from where I worked, and I still had to get my son to my parents. And I was married to an alcoholic who was absolutely zero help. So I was pretty much a single mom from the word go. And yeah, I have a lot of regrets. I tried when we could, but I did always let him pick his clothes. But he had me pick them until I think he was about 5, because he could care less what he wore. He was like, whatever. He did not care. And as he says, I call the trauma quota. That is a good phrase. I like that. You can't land everything on one set of shoulders, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we all get a little tired of it. It's a little bit of sass, of course. I think you got to be. We're tough. We're tough women. We've been put through hell and back. Not only have we gone through the assault, but we have gone through the aftermath where we have not been supported. All of us wouldn't be here if we had had a great support system and had dealt with our trauma successfully, right? We're here because we haven't, and we didn't. So regardless of whether we feel strong at the moment, know that we're strong inside. We are strong women. Something that I'm trying to remember today. It's a real tough one for me. Izzy said, I read on the matter because I sure wasn't, before I have a kid, because I sure wasn't raised on consent. Yeah, that was one of the things I kept telling myself. I know nothing about parenting, and I should read a book on that. And then life would take over and I would never do it. Or I'd stare at a book and go, I should read that. And I never did. It's because once my son turned 5, I essentially had a nervous breakdown. And I've been crawling my way back ever since. So it was pretty tough. I lost my husband, my alcoholic husband. I lost him in terms of I moved out. So I lost my house and I lost my job within 11 days of each other. And I fell apart, completely fell apart. And I've been crawling and clawing my way back since. So I definitely will encourage my son not to listen to me necessarily, but go read a good book. I'll give him one. And it will not be What to Expect When You're Expecting. Oh my God. I won't say colossal waste of a book, but don't bother. Is Sin not perfect by any stretch? Lots of pressure on moms to do it all. Unfortunately, often without help. Raising kids like single moms, even when we aren't. Yeah. My husband, he would put my son to bed occasionally, but he would just turn the TV on and then leave the room. I'm like, that was not helpful. He never got up with him in the middle of the night, ever. One time he took off with his half-brother for 10 days, trucking. So I was a single parent. It can be tough. It can be real tough. But here we are. 100%, Gypsy Daisy. Misty says 100%. Yep. We all feel that. Is everybody moms here? Gypsy, Misty, are you both moms? Just kind of helps knowing who has kids and who doesn't. I know, Izzy, you've got younger ones. Mine is going to graduate from high school this year, so he is older. I know some have kids that are already grown and out of the house. And for me, it just helps me get to know you. And as we're talking about trauma, as we're talking about education, being able to relate to each of you on your level as to, what's going to be most important for you. Some people may even have grandkids at this point. Audiobooks now saves me. Yeah, absolutely. Miss D says she's on the other side. Twin boys, 31. Yep. So you've got ones that are totally out of the house. I don't know if anybody's got grandkids in here yet. But some people have ones up. Mom of 3. I was mom of 1. I thought about 2, but I wasn't sure on staying in the marriage. And so I wasn't sure about being a single mom of 2. But my mom was a single child. And I listened to a lot of what she went through in the 50s and 60s. Now, she had cousins who were her age because my grandparents were much older when they adopted her. So she had tons of people to play with. So socialization was not an issue. But I knew for my son that socialization would be. And so I made every effort for him to have play dates and meet people and get out and, do all that kind of stuff because, but even doing that, you look at some of the studies and what they say the traits of an only child are, and it's still amazing to see how similar they are. My son's best friend is the oldest of 4. And what happens with him and what he's been through, and seeing on that list how much is him is pretty amazing. I've known this kid since they were both 5 years old. They were in kindergarten together. I could not be happier that his best friend is still his best friend now. Whether they grow apart as adults or not, he always had somebody who had his back. And as somebody who grew up who did not have very many friends growing up, it was very, very hard for me to make friends. I've done whatever I can to stay in the same school district, and it's expensive to live here. But my son started here, and I did not want to take him away from his friends. So he will graduate in the same school district that he started kindergarten. And I'm pretty proud of that fact. Pretty proud of that fact. Introverted parents trying to keep their kids' social life alive. Yeah, we have no life ourselves, and we have no friends, but we get them on fur babies. Yes, I do. I do have 2 cats. They're not here now. You know, if I do this from my chair, I'm in my office chair right now. If I do this from my other chair, they may actually come. They fight for my lap in that chair. But they're prissy. They want nice big lap. If I have my legs straight, I don't have enough of a lap, and they get really annoyed with me. So it's really kind of funny. No, none of us are perfect. But I think that together we can help each other in so many ways. I know that even having a kid at my age, you know, we're looking at going on to the next phase of his life. So looking at you guys who have already been through, Miss D, I'm looking at you right now, who have already been through that. And how do we support them and guide them, but yet let them make their own decisions? He will be 18 in a number of months. But for now, he still has to ask permission to leave. It'll be interesting. I think he'll still be living at home for a couple of years afterwards. He's going to do some trade school type stuff. But we'll see. That's going to be an interesting transition. I'm going to be gritting my teeth on some of that stuff. So, well, we're going on just 2 hours now. And we've talked about a lot. I'm really glad that we did tonight. Saturday seems to be a little bit busier for us. I might add a Sunday if that's when it's easier for everyone to get together. Some people are still trying to catch this live from Australia. I know that they just had some issues and haven't been able to. You have kids and it's back to asking your parents for permission to leave. Yep. I think he left the other day. He was like, no, that wasn't my car. Sounded a lot like my car, didn't it? I thought it was my car too. I'm like, whatever. He just went around the neighborhood type of thing. So, I mean, I could hear where he was, but one of those oopsies, I slipped out and forgot to tell you. He's been busted every major time that they've tried to slip out. They just stopped. It wasn't worth it anymore. I caught them all every time. So next, we will be talking about effects of trauma. I'm going to be going through a little bit more in detail about how it affects you physically, how it affects us mentally. We'll take deep dives into each of those symptoms, but going through and really listing all of these symptoms and seeing how many things can be related to trauma, both physically and mentally. And when you start adding them up and meshing them together, and saying, yeah, one incident or a series of incidents that's a piece of one part of a single trauma. I use that loosely. I think you understand what I mean. It can be this, it's the root of all evil. It really can be our source. So hopefully we'll get there. Catch you next time, Miss D. Izzy, you out? I hope that you guys all have a great night. I'm going to catch a little more research, I think, and then hit bed. I am going to have a busy, busy day of work tomorrow. So I know I'll be talking to all of you tomorrow. Thanks, Izzy. I'm so glad you made it. I'll be talking to you guys tomorrow. I know I have to. I have some big decisions to make with my job, and I'm absolutely at a loss. So I know that I'm going to be talking to you guys to get some insight, to get some opinions, because I just don't know what to do. And I need to, this is the big one. I need to get this stabilized and this decision made so that I can move on with some other things. I don't know if you guys have had some of those things in your life where you're like, this thing has got to just, I can't deal with all this other stuff if this is hanging over my head. And this job thing is for me too. Gonna catch I'll probably do that in the morning before the morning one for me. But yeah, catch the boat on replay. We'll see what that's about. So thanks for staying. Absolutely. I know a lot of us get over there and we kind of just got talking, and I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all. I think all of you have subscribed, hit the like button. I should do that at the beginning. I keep forgetting. We'll get there. Mwah. Remember, you are valued. You are worthy. You are loved. Each and every one of you. Nights, hugs, and love.